You can't overestimate the power of the Catholic Church in the 1400s. The Church wasn't just powerful in its number of followers. Before the invention of the printing press, the Pope had centralized control over how the ideas and messages of Catholicism would spread to other Catholic churches. Each church had a priest, and each priest had a Bible from which to read the Word of God to his followers. But not many people had ever read the Bible themselves, and most people of this time could not read in general. Books were rare, extremely expensive, and it was difficult to make copies. So the church essentially had monopoly control on not only the written version of God's teachings, but the priests had control over disseminating those teachings at church meetings. Suffice it to say, if you wanted to know what the Bible meant, you would have to go through the priest. Martin Luther was one of these Catholic priests. He lived in Germany, where he was also a professor of theology at a local university, and although he was devoted to the Word of God, he did not like how the church took liberties with its interpretations of the Bible. For example, in the early 1500s, the church needed to raise money for its military operations and missions to convert non-believers. And yes, I just said the church's military operations. Luther was not happy to hear that the church had begun raising funds by selling its followers indulgences. Even though this was not actually in the Bible, church officials were asking followers to pay money to have their sins forgiven. Pay for forgiveness. In the 1950s, we saw radio DJs taking bribes from record labels to play certain artists on the radio. This practice was called payola. And now here, in the 1400s, the church is essentially taking payola to absolve sins. But the church didn't stop there. It actually gets juicier. To raise even more money, one church representative was telling their followers that they could pay to have even their future sins forgiven, or even those of your dead relatives. For many, it seemed like a small price to pay for eternal salvation.